issues, be it scalability or network security and stuff.
Sourced.
So this is what we do differently, and I think this has been a big relief.
Sure. So one which I hear from the panel is that we are facing a retention challenge at the higher experience level, right? But let me just go to the starting point of the entry level. So for you have been dealing with people who are actually coming to you for these kind of specialized trainings, right? So what are the main reasons or things that you find them lacking on?
That's something that actually is in our education system. It's actually at the bachelor's and the college level. Our focus all along, and it still has gone into the IT, has been on getting the highest percentage marks. How they doing something like a CA type of thing, but in IT, they're focused too much on cramming that definition of a particular technology and spitting it out without actually understanding it. I do a lot of they call them faculty development professional seminars at colleges and all that type of stuff. And a lot of times I'm dealing with professors that are teaching networking technologies to these students. I'm not teaching the students, I'm teaching the faculties actually at those places. And even with them, I feel they're still too focused on definitions rather than actually imparting practical knowledge. And what ends up happening is when the person comes out of college, he can spit out an acronym left, right, and center. You tell him how to make it work, he has no idea how to make it work. So our problem stems from, number one, from the way we learn. I've done my bachelor's in the US, and I've seen these people in terms of the people that are coming to me. And I deal with students coming out of colleges. That's basically what I deal with on a day-to-day basis. I see their focus has been, like I would say, let's talk about RIP today. The first thing they'll ask me, what does it stand for? Why? They are thinking about, oh, RIP, an acronym, it'll be tested somewhere, so I need to know what the acronym stands for. They don't give a damn about how does it work, is RIP better, is it OSPF better, what are the different protocols better. They are more focused on definitions, when did it come out, who created it, those type of things. So that's one challenge that I see that stems from the way our education system is. The other problem that we have is the field that we are in, the IT field, as you correctly said, is so dynamic, especially the networking field, that a 4-year degree, regardless of what you do with it, and this is not a problem with India, by the way, this is a problem anywhere in the world. Whatever you do with a 4-year degree, it is very hard for you to teach people skills that are current in a college system. Whether you like it or not, by the time the board approves it, by the time the college approves of a course curriculum, it's been a year. Okay? A year, and they study for a year, that's 2 years. In our industry, 2 years is an eternity. So whatever you do, there will be a skill gap. Now, the thing that you need to instill, and that has to come from colleges or a vocational training center, is that you need to take away that mentality of concentration on theories as much as we do over here. It's absolutely important. You need to have the background. You cannot implement something if you don't know how it works. But our focus is 70-30, or I would say 80-20. More on the theory part, and the practical part is lacking, where it should be the other way around. Maybe 30-40% should be the theoretical part, because our field is all about skills. If you get an engineer, and the engineer has no idea how to implement a technology, but he knows exactly where it comes from, what the actual protocol works, to me, as an implementer, it doesn't mean anything. It really doesn't mean, I need to deliver something, I need this network to be troubleshooting. Somebody brought up troubleshooting. I don't know, one of you guys brought up troubleshooting as a thing that's not being taught. Because troubleshooting has to deal with hands-on. And that's completely lacking from our college system. That's what I've felt. And I've been training in India for the last 7 years now, and that's the first thing that has come out of the colleges.
One collateral to that is what we find in qualification. There is no cost arbitrage, especially with networking. In the sense that now, if I'm taking, say, a BTech or a B, compared to a BSc for my regular programming job, I'm able to have a cost differential. But for networking, considering his basic networking qualification and his exposure to the market, I have to pay immediately the same thing what I would pay be paying to an engineer or a qualified B.Tech or a B. So there is almost little cost arbitrage for taking a BSc in networking. So you don't make any distinction. Whereas we have a regular stream of non-B.Techs, non-BEs coming into the programming field. So there is a clear that cost arbitrage will last anywhere from 2 to 3 years, which we don't have. Networking right from day one should be almost
Just one point, I would like to say that policy is absolutely right, but being a product company and I'm last 3 years with Citrix, we very specifically go to the best of the colleges, but that has to do with the mindset. I know yesterday we picked up 6 students from IIT Mumbai. Okay, we take people only from IITs and NIT Computer Science. Best of the breed, pay them the highest. There are 2 ways it works. I think one is because we are a product company and we have a product which is a market leader, so we have been able to retain people, and because of a very, very strong emphasis on developing patent. But I will tell you, so that's the story of, so we have been fairly successful in terms of retaining them and attracting the best of the breed, and as you said, complete in-house training, because I don't think being a product company is what we have to build. And so that's one side. But I'll tell you the other side of the, we are talking about networking domain. I have now a fairly large amount of team in the tech support side. And there we face that similar thing in terms of not getting many people. And there are many people who are not choosing to be there, because if you are a network engineer or you are troubleshooting, you have to be ready to go to a customer site in the night. Right? Oh, yeah. They will not work. Now, I have seen people, they're saying that, should I get into there, right? So what we have done again, so we have tried to replicate the similar model what we did in R&D, but little different. R&D, we go to the best of the college, pay them at the top, and retain them. In tech support, what we have done is we have gone to Tier 2 and Tier 3 colleges. We take same computer engineer, pay them 1/3 of what we pay to the R&D guys, and we have started, and we have just started last year. So we have built a team of around, I would say, about 60, 70 people, because we are a product company, obviously our scales are much smaller, but they have been doing extremely well. And just to come to your point, what we have done, we call this train to hire program. We exactly found that if we go there to any of these places, we will not get guys who are ready to do, right? And we know this simple difference. The difference between knowledge and skill is knowledge applied to the job is skill, right? So you don't. So what we did actually, we got a couple of places, and we have gone to places like Chandigarh, we have gone to places like Jalgaon, and we have, these are the places which is not a very common places. And we figured out, and of course Kanpur. And we have gone to Tier 2 and Tier 3 colleges, and we actually tied up with a couple of them, and we send our trainers, we created the course curriculum, we not only selected them, and then we have asked them to go through this program, and then did a second round of final screening based on their performance. So what my managers are telling, they have been extremely happy with the performance, because all these kids are doing extremely well.
And I think a lot of that has to do with the mentality. When you go to these high-end colleges that you're talking about, the prestige colleges, the students coming out have a mentality, I'm coming from this college, I already have a chip on my shoulder. When you go to these second-tier cities, they're ready to work at nights, ready to work more to make their mark. So that's why you're finding a lot of the people in the second-tier cities willing to go out at night and do the job. And that's a very valid point that you brought out. Networking is a job, and I've been doing this for a while, is most of the time you're going to be doing it off hours. You cannot afford to bring down the network during the day. Most of the implementations, most of the switchovers that take place are taking place at off hours, whether it's the weekend, whether it's nights. So you should be ready for that type of stuff, and people are aware of that.
I think it's absolutely correct. It's all about setting expectation, because I've told them, and they're in the, they're in 2 different premises, but they're the same organization. I told them exactly that this is what we are going to pay, and this is what our R&D recruitment happens. One might come and say, I have the same degree of computer science. One may be from IIT, the other one from XYZ Institute, but we have the same course curriculum. At the beginning, we have said it very clearly, this is what we are doing, but you will learn and you will have a great career. And just point to note, 50% of these engineers are actually women, girls. We have experimented because there was a lot of thought process because they have to work. And we found they were ready to come, and many of them are doing extremely well. They're ready to work on odd hours, which is not a regular shift, and they're doing extremely well. Just a point, because this is one of the experimentation we are, and at the end of, I would say, 1 year of this program, I don't have to say because it's just about a year, but they're doing extremely well.
So I think that's the paradigm shift that even we would be realizing in our type of setups, that where networking was never considered a girls' arena. But in the past few years, I would say 2-3 years is where we are seeing a lot of females and a lot of girl employees coming in and taking up this career because they really want to be hands-on. They want to play with those tools, they want to play with the routers, and they really want to play with the switches, etc. And yes, the incoming of this profile has definitely increased by about 5 to 7% if we would measure it, which is, I mean, if you ask me, which is incredible.
Incredible.
Yeah.
I think from a training perspective, a couple of things which has worked well for us is a buddy program, especially when you have a large corporation and you need to support the internal organization. So we have done a lot of BPOization of putting them across 7 days, 24/7 kind of a shift, ensuring that they understand the nitty-gritties of importance of attention to customers or internal clients' need. Once that is done, we have mandated some programs of e-learning, self-learning modules at their time, of course at an expense of the organization in terms of certification, because certification costs you for every license, right. It costs you some money. But we ensured that people who have done very well, we have reimbursed those certification fees. So modules such as self-learning modules, which are online available for them through our intranet, where they have to log in and register themselves, acquire a particular score in order to certify and get reimbursed. E-learning modules, and of course we are currently experimenting on video learning techniques because that's the in thing. Because so one realization is everything in company's time and company's money doesn't work. You need to ensure that you have to bring a psyche in the minds of the youngsters, that if you want to really scale up and notch above the others, rest of the world, you need to invest your time, company's money, but you have to find that time to enhance your skill set.
One couple of things that I want to also share with you, and one of the things that you guys can do as part of what you can do internally is a lot of KT sessions, the knowledge transfer sessions, right. Which are very important. You can give incentives to your other employees that can do KTs to others, maybe assistants or whatever. That works very well for a couple of reasons. Number one, these people are experienced people, and more importantly, they're experienced with your methodology, your mindset in terms of how the company works, your values. And that knowledge transfer, when let's say you do have attrition rates, that will help your attrition. Well, even if the attrition rate is there, just because the knowledge transfer did take place, the person that's right behind him is ready to take the job of the person that's left. So some of the things that you can do is knowledge transfer. In terms of the video that you're talking about, all the high-level training that I conduct is basically done through virtual classrooms, because I conduct all the training for the expert level training myself from Delhi. And it's an amazing technology that now is at your disposal. That was not there even 2 years, 3 years ago, although virtual classroom was there, but the bandwidth was not there to support it. Nowadays you do have the bandwidth. I'm conducting classes for 25 sites, 20 sites simultaneously from all my centers from Delhi. And it's probably taking about 8 to 10 meg link to do that, which is possible nowadays, which was not possible even, 2 years, 3 years ago. To get that type of bandwidth would be a tough thing to do. So that's another thing that you might want to take a look at. You might have a resource, maybe in your site in Mumbai or maybe your site in Bangalore, which you can do a knowledge transfer session with a person in Delhi.
Sure. Mr. Murthy, any other suggestions?
Yeah, so one of the things that has made it easy, at least made it attractive for people to get into the networking and the infrastructure, is during the training, make it more and more of hands-on, creating these labs where they get their hands dirty, they use the tools and technologies that they will use when they get into the client engagement, and making it competitive for them to do it, because one of the skill gap is also in their ability to work well in teams. Therefore, creating those team projects that they do as part of the training and using hands-on is a critical aspect. The second part on the knowledge sharing and is also using cloud technology for conducting the program. So, so video is one aspect, but if you are able to get them to do virtualization and use from somebody sitting in Pune and instructor is in Bangalore or in Mysore, and the lab is virtual, and they're able to use some of those. That has helped us immensely in getting these people together.
Absolutely.
And in the continuous education part, we also created a point system for people to benefit in terms of getting points when they conduct programs for others, as a way for them to feel incentivized in participation, because you perhaps have to learn more to teach than when you're learning yourself. So if somebody is willing to do the teaching, that counts as part of their own competence development. So some of those, the lab, the cloud, and the point system, all of those help in bringing this ecosystem together.
Sure. I think one
more point I just wanted to add was on the intern program. Typically, most of the organizations run the intern programs purely for product development and QA type of work. But I think in the industry today, there aren't that many options or places for companies to go and get interns, right, to work on some of these networking IT projects, right? Even if it's for, let's say, a 3 to 6 month or maybe a 6 to 12 month type of an internship. I think that's something that may not be available as an option today, but if the ecosystem is created in a way that there are options available, that could also be a good method for companies to bring people in, also gauge them. It's also trying them out before you actually make the selection, and also for the students, it gives them an option, an opportunity to learn, enhance their skill sets, and actually get access to some real-time kind of environments to get some exposure. So I think that's also a need in the ecosystem today.
In fact, the large-scale contracting which we do in networking kind of work has really worked in our advantage, especially when somebody who's on a contract, on a third-party contract, and would like to work for a large corporation like ours, it's always an incentive for him to do well when he was on a contract. And we monitor them, and the partner scorecards are developed. There is a PMS which is reviewed by the vendor manager. We ensured that the internal vendor manager who manages 10 different vendors, sending these networking professionals, having them a PMS module, performance management module, in fact really worked very well. In fact, we call it as partner scores, and we stack rank the partner scores with respect to individuals who have done extremely well, and we give them a potential opportunity for them to join the organization, both from a standpoint of working within the organization for Wipro, as well as to outplace them in client location.
Sure.
So that was icing on the cake for most of us large-scale organizations.
I think one of the points raised by Nagesh is very valid. I think the concept of internship, in the area of networking is very, very important, and that's a low-hanging fruit, for most of us, if you would like to do that. That's one thing. And secondly, I think we need to build a value proposition for the networking domain, which is not there in the industry today. Okay. For example, the developer jobs, are very, very glamorous. They get paid very handsomely. Whereas networking, most of the times it is by chance that you get into networking and not by choice. Though it is changing today, I think we need to build a value proposition, for this domain. Chart out a clear, career path for the networking professionals so that they see value and want to pursue that as a career.
So I'd like to actually pick up that point itself and say, the panel, does it feel that actually being in networking is non-glamorous rather than being in a programming language per se? Because now with the advent of cloud computing, etc., there are a whole lot of specialization that is happening inside the industry. So rather than being just a generic kind of a vertical, it is now going to be very, very specialized. And there I'm sure would be very handsome salaries would come. But does the panel feel that?
So there has been a mindset of the past couple of years, because initially networking was considered of connecting LANs and cables and pulling plugs and putting plugs.
Cable guys.
Going under the table.
Yes, absolutely.
Cable guys.
But now with the virtualization happening, I think it's changing. For us, it's changing, but the mindset is still not evolved, right? It's in the process. And when we're saying it's in the process, probably another year or two that it would take in India, as I feel, would bring it all, the networking domain also into a specialized functions. Security, which is catching up so fast. And I was reading, I think about a week or so back, where the Indian government announced a 4.7 lakh security jobs would be available, or professionals would be required. I mean, that's immense by 2015, that's immense. So from where are these specialized skills going to come in? Yes, if the answer is yes, then people need to start grappling them immediately. So when it becomes more verticalized, I think the mindsets would be passé. We would move into these also would be considered as glamorous, right? Sure. And somewhere I also feel that there's a lot of formal education is still missing in our society on the networking side. So I don't know whether we as corporate players need to contribute, or the NASSCOMs of the world and the governments of the world have to contribute to bring that formal education.
I think one of the things when you talk about a glamorous job, personally I think the awareness of the field is not there as much. Even when people come in, they know there's a field called networking, without actually knowing what it entails.
Yeah.
So the first, as you correctly said, the first vision that a person gets about the networking field is a cable guy. He's the one that's running the cables, without even having any idea of what the field is actually about. So rather than making it glamorous, the first thing that personally I think that we should do is make the market aware of what the networking field is all about. And I think that's the place it's lacking. It's not the glamorous part of it. People are not even aware of what it is. So the awareness is not there. So once the awareness comes in, then whether it's glamorous or not will come into play. But the clear picture of what, let's say you go into a Java programming, you know exactly what you're doing. With networking, you don't have that clarity in your mind. What are you exactly going to do? I have people coming into the counseling sessions where the first thing they ask you, what do I do as a job as networking? They don't know that. They really don't. And it's not something that they're portraying, or they really don't have any idea of that. And you're absolutely right. That has to come from our formal education. It's not there. It is really not there in the formal education system.
And I think more than the issue of glamour, it's a question of employability. Now, networking has been a separate island. Now it is acting, because it's a separate island, it's acting the reverse way. Earlier, people were not too willing to come to networking because they would wonder what after that. I can't go anywhere else. But now, since there is an entry barrier, people have realized that since a Java programmer or a mainframe person can't get into networking, it is more of a closed field. So somebody who is in networking, when you require a networking specialist, has to be taken from that specific island. And you can't take somebody from outside. So
yeah.
That sort of perception is changing. So people know that if they're getting into the networking field, you have more employability outside, than compared to say a Java or a mainframe professional.
Right.
Yeah, I think the issue is, as he rightly mentioned, at an entry level, this is an issue of education and their ability to understand if there is a career for networking professional. But it's changed certainly at mid-level. People with 3 to 15 years of experience, and that's a long range. I think today are well versed with what are the career options, what are the emerging markets, which are the emerging technologies they need to pick up speed on. I think they're all well versed, and I'm talking about people who have connected on LinkedIn on the networking space is considerable.
Well, I totally agree, but the problem that we are facing, you're absolutely right about that in terms of LinkedIn. But that's a very small population of the bigger population.
That's right. It may be 14 to 15% of the entire population. So 80% of the entry-level jobs which are in networking, as rightly mentioned by I think Suresh and Arpan. So I think that is something which is a long way to go, both from an academia standpoint as well as from the industry or NASSCOM standpoint.
See, one of the things is this whole issue of formal education, and I would tend to agree what he said is, I think there is a great need of education. Even if you look at India produces, I keep on getting these numbers, but I think about 8.5 lakhs engineers per year.
And 25%, as they say, is employable as per NASSCOM.
As per NASSCOM, 8.5 lakhs. At least I know R&D kind of a setups, R&D product companies. I saw a report which says about 35,000 people we require to cater to the purely R&D kind of a job. And ours being an R&D center, we look for them. And we struggle to get those 35,000. But then other side, as I said, whether people have a way